All right, let's see
Hello
what this is
everyone.
all about.
When it comes to Elden Ring, most of us admit that the PvE was a great experience. However, when it comes to PvP, it has been a horrendous ride for many reasons. Hello everyone.
I don't know why the resolution is not.
Hello everyone. When it comes to Elden Ring, most of us admit that the PvE was a great experience. However, when it comes to PvP, it has been a horrendous ride for many reasons for many people, including me. There are the issues of the extremely limited modes you can play in the multiplayer, such as no covenants, 4-player limit hurting the ability to do fight clubs in team-based invasions, the lack of solo host invasions, and so on. This is a long subject that I will have to discuss in detail in the next video, hopefully. In this video, however, we will be discussing the issues relating to combat balance, where Elden Ring, when released, was by many considered the most unbalanced PvP in all of Fromsoftware. Many people, including me, have done their best to bring light to all of the concerns that are plaguing the PvP of Elden Ring. While the balance has come a long way since release, it is far from ideal, and we will need to.
This video is yeah, is 3 hours old. Gabri just made this, so yeah. But yeah, the resolution, I'm at max, so it's just the resolution of the vid. Let's keep watching.
We will need much more to bring it into a much better shape. Most weapons are still lackluster due to the poor balance of passive poison and overall damage. Power stancing still deals absurd damage. Stack and buff is still overpowered. Bloodhound step and quickstep are still too strong. The game is still played by input drops like the block input drop. Many game breaking glitches still exist. And to add salt to injury, a new cancer was added that was not there during release, which is light rolls, breaking the balance similar to how Bloodhound Step used to and still does. It has been an entire year since release, and by now you would think Elden Ring PvP should be in a much better state than it currently is.
I mean, you have to agree with every point he's made so far, though, right? Like, I think pretty much everything so far has been on point.
After looking into it further, I realized who's really to blame for the current state of Elden Ring. You see, Fromsoftware and Bandai are companies that have their financial bottom line as a priority. After releasing a game, they want it to be as successful as possible. Part of being successful is having an overall good image with the community. They are more than willing to help support the games if it means it can keep the community happy.
Is the volume high enough for you guys? Do you want me to get the volume up a little bit? It's fine? It's good? Okay.
However, one very important detail is that if the community is full of divided opinions on certain matters, they are likely to take the safe approach and do less to provoke fewer people. And that is the core issue of why we are not getting enough changes. We, the community, are at fault for not having a proper balance to PvP, and that is mainly.
I think when he says the community is at fault, the only thing I hear in my head is Reddit. It's basically Reddit's fault. It's the only thing I hear.
Due to divided opinions between us regarding how to approach the PvP balance. The biggest reasons for the divided opinions are usually the lack of proper understanding of how the games work, and most importantly, not knowing what is possible to do in order to balance these games. In this video, I plan on giving a visual presentation on how to balance the PvP for Elden Ring combat with modding and what is possible to do for balancing purposes from a technical level. Fromsoftware added a great tool in patch 1.07 that is so easy to use that a person with my level of technical expertise could do in a span of a day. So before we start, let us call this visual presentation patch as PvP mod or just mod for ease of explanation.
By the way, when he says someone with his level of expertise could do it, like Gabri is not a tech guy. Like he showed me the other day, like how he was doing this, and it's literally just changing numbers on like a spreadsheet, except that it's not a spreadsheet, it's like whatever software. It's like extremely simple. Like a lot of the fixes we asked for, like there's no excuse for not having them because they're like dumb simple. All right, let's keep on watching.
Without further ado, let us begin.
Oh shit.
Poise. Some consider this a very controversial topic, but in reality it really isn't, for passive poise specifically, and only seems like it due to people making it too personal since they are blinded by nostalgia instead of trying to be objective about a PvE specific mechanic. The issues related to poise are at the core of the Elden Ring PvP problems. I did a whole series on this matter that I don't want to repeat myself here, but the conclusion was basically that passive poise should not be the highlight of combat and rather should be a support mechanic to control the demons of the game, such as fast long-range projectiles or unreactable melee attacks.
Gotta appreciate the gameplay though, right? In the background, some nice mix-ups going on.
Important word here is unreactable. This is exactly what we did in this PvP mod. We made all the attacks that are 10 frames or faster from neutral deal even lower poise damage than vanilla. This is to make them easier to not stun you. For example, the first light attack of two-handed
I love how his little brother is just little Gabri. Sorry.
attack of a dagger that is 10 frames speed deals about 50 poise damage in vanilla. In this mod, it deals 30 poise damage. So you are likely to be able to tank it in this mod than even vanilla. However, every subsequent attack will always break your poise. This means from neutral, the unreactable light attack of dagger can be tanked by passive poise, while heavy attacks and subsequent light attacks cannot. Its running attack as well cannot be tanked by passive poise. On top of that, dagger stun is the lowest possible stun, which is called, funny enough, faceplant stun in the game, meaning that yes, you can stun the opponent with attacks that can, but it is so low that you won't be able to keep them stun locked like many people imagine it to be, while still keeping its priority due to the sheer speed of the weapon. Another weapon people get scared of is Twin Blade. The Twin Blade's first hit in the first light attack has very low poise damage, so will likely not stun you. However, the second hit of the first light attack will break your passive poise, always. The second light attack also received the same treatment, so that players do not get stun locked after getting hit by the first light attack's second hit, which gives a chance to escape if they get hit by the first light attack. Things like the fist running attack also receive the same treatment, and so on.
This is a bit like how we envisioned Elden Ring to be back in Dark Souls 3, like when we were trying to balance out like the faster weapons. This is more like something along the line of what we wanted, what he's explaining right now, so that the first hit doesn't stun but the second one does, so it still keeps all the small, like the low poise damage weapon relevant, makes spacing more relevant, and it also lets you use whatever fashion you want. It's just a win-win, really.
Weapons like stray swords, katanas, axes, spears can now break your passive poise entirely all the time. Again, there is no stun locking, contrary to what others think, as Elden Ring attacks have very low stun with no true combos.
Yeah, this is a mod. This is a mod, but this is a blueprint for a suggestion. Like this mod is pretty much a statement to Bandai and FromSoft, telling them, see guys, this is what we should have been doing. That's pretty much what it is. It's a balance mod. It's not a mod for different gameplay. It's basically a balance patch made by the community. And he's explaining why the choices behind it.
Those three that had true combos. Thrusting swords and Shamshir Corpse Sword received a unique treatment. Their second light attack deals extremely low poise damage, while their first light attack will deal as much as a stray sword first light attack would. The third and subsequent attacks deal the same as the first light attack. This basically will play the opposite of the dagger nerf. It means you can whiff punish and stun passive poise with them, but cannot spam your opponent to death, as the second light attack does not stagger. Furthermore, Thrusting Swords also received a nerf to its tracking and roll recovery, so you can easily strafe its attack. This clearly shows how simple changes to these weapons that people worry about when they think of passive poise, of no passive poise or low passive poise, make these weapons much more manageable, making them still useful yet not too OP, contrary to what ignorant people think. Other things that received poise damage changes are the shockwaves and push boxes. Things like this Royal Greysword Ash of War are now able to have pushback boxes and shockwaves, as you can see.
That makes sense, otherwise they're
have
useless.
It already in game. It just, you only needed one poise to tank the
Did you guys know this? The push box that he's talking about, that's in the game right now. It just does 1 poise damage, so it's useless. I did not even know this. That's crazy.
The shockwave and push boxes, whereas here now they're able to stun you, stun your passive poise all the time. Also, the backstab with punish also received the same poise damage level as their light attack. For crouching attacks, I will leave that in the crouching attacks section later in this video. You might be thinking, how is this accomplished? Before I explain the details of what was done, I need to show you how easy it is to do. When patch 1.07 was released, Fromsoftware gave us what I consider the solution to almost every PvP balance problems. You see, all of these are the parameter data of each character attack animation. There is this new value that was added in patch 1.07.
So all the values he's showing here, like this is all they have to do to fix the game. Like, you know, you see like for each like weapon, like each attack, whatever, you just change one motion value there and that's it. You call it a day. That's all they have to do. It's just that they don't know which one to do, so they need the community to help them.
Called final damage rate parameter. What this does is separate the damage of PvP and PvE. It controls all the elemental damages, stamina damage, and even poise damage. So if we look into any of these animations, it would have a designated final damage rate parameter. For this case, the Greysword uses the value 0. If we go check the multiplier in PvP for any animation that has the value 0, got these following values as multipliers. In vanilla, the poise multiplier was 1.35, whereas this mod has it as 2.7. This would mean all the Greysword animations all had poise multipliers of 1.35, whereas in this mod it is now 2.7. It is that easy to balance poise. The reason 2.7 was chosen was due to a one-handed light attack requiring that multiplier to deal 134 poise damage, which would be above 133 poise. This would mean a heavy attack of a light weapon would then deal more than 134 poise damage. Whatever the motion value of each attack in the weapon class of vanilla will now have a multiplier by 2.7, meaning depending on the motion value of the attack, it will not just be 134 poise damage, as that is the bare minimum for a light attack to stagger passive poise. The power stance attack attacks that attack simultaneously, like straight swords, were also thought out when balancing this. When both attack hits, they deal 134 poise damage. If any of the attacks hit separately, they will deal 67, which is half of that. Whereas something like power stance acts.
Basically, if it's too complicated for you guys, what he's explaining is that he's basically streamlining the whole game so that everything is more consistent. It's like either it's going to do like no poise damage, either it's going to do like a half poise damage or full poise damage. That's pretty much the bottom line. So when you hit like with a power stance weapon, each of the weapon do half your poise damage. It's really just that simple.
That come out at different timings, each deal 134 poise damage.
But if they attack at a different timing, each of them will stun. So like for instance, straight sword running, right? Like a straight sword running attack power stance, where you swing like both sword one after the other, both would do max poise damage. But if you're talking about an L1 from straight sword, both swords will do 60 instead of or 65, I think, something like that, instead of max poise damage.
So that attacks like straight sword power stance do not obliterate hyper armor attacks by dealing 268 poise damage when both attack hits. You might then think that regardless they are already destroying hyper armor and make it non-functional by being 134 poise damage. Fortunately, the hyper armor changes are easier than ever. You see, in vanilla the multiplier for hyper armor was half of your armor poise plus whatever the innate poise. As you see here, that is exactly what it is. To counter the increase of poise damage, the hyper armor was given the multiplier of 3 instead of 0.5. That will make it where hyper armor is strong enough to counter the increase in poise damage and even make it easier to hyper armor through attacks than even vanilla. So as you see, it was extremely simple to balance the poise damage, contrary to what people keep ignorantly saying that it is not possible to do. Fromsoftware even created a system that is so easy to use to allow it to change that that it can be done in a few hours to completely balance the poise issues of Elden Ring. It is a matter of actually letting them know that yes, we want it, instead of acting like it is not a possibility, or saying that they would need to completely overhaul the entire combat or some ridiculous thing, considering that it can take just one or two click of a buttons to do. Damage. Damage changes is as easy as poise damage.
I think the damage is gonna get touched next patch. I think they're gonna nerf power stance damage, to be honest. I think maybe even, like, you know, if the patch comes tomorrow or whatever, I think the damage will get touched, but let's see.
Damage using the same system to change it without changing the PvE damage. The damage issues all come from power stancing dealing way too much damage, whereas another issue related to damage is what weapons that are meant to win trades don't deal enough damage. In this mod, all power stance attacks deal 20% less damage. Any power stance attack that deal damage simultaneously, like power stance spears and straight swords, got their damage reduced by 30% instead. This made them still do more damage than even two-handed attacks, but not by much. Crouching attacks damage changes will be explained in the crouching attack section later in this video. Before we go into how to improve the damage of heavy weapons that always lose trades due to not having true combos, I want to talk about the synergy between light and heavy attacks that we changed in this mod, as that is important to help understand the improvements for heavy weapons we will talk about shortly after. In vanilla, Fromsoftware added a system where the second light attack comes after most animations. That made sense, and not just the first light attack.
Bro, look at these flashy jumps. They're kind of sick, not gonna lie.
This was a great change that had a great impact on PvP for many weapons. However, that change is only for the second light attack only, and not the second heavy. Well, in this mod, the second heavy attack will come after every first attack, similar to how the second light attack comes after every single attack animation. That makes sense. So after the first light attack, jumping attack, running attacks, and so on. I say animations that make sense, as some heavy attacks don't make sense to allow them to go into the second heavy instead of the first. In this mod, I polished the flow of the animations quite a bit, that you can access much of the subsequent attacks easier depending on how it flows between animations. For example, you can do the first light attack with a colossal weapon here into the second heavy, and from there, and from the second heavy you can do.
He basically made like all the attack chain with each other. So if you do like a first R1 and then you do an R2 afterward, your second, like the R2 that's gonna come out is the second R2 basically, instead of the first one. But if you want the first one, you can still, like, you know, block cancel or sprint cancel it into the first one. So you have access to more attacks, and more attacks chain with each other. That's basically what he's doing here. Gabriel's been talking about this like before Elden Ring came out. That's how he wanted the game to be. I remember back in the network test he was talking about that.
The third light attack, as you see here. It also makes it easier to put players into a 50-50 situation, since most heavy attacks have the same startup as the first light attack, meaning that after you get the first hit, the opponent will have to make a choice of either panic rolling to not get hit by the fast second light attack and risk getting hit by the second heavy, or not panic rolling anticipating the heavy attack instead, but instead risk getting hit by the second light attack since it is fast. Regardless, notice how it flows beautifully, creating some unique combos instead of being a light attack into another light attack or heavy to another heavy. If we use something like the Y-hander, it will go into the first heavy instead, as that is a unique attack and it would break its unique aspect if we made it go into second heavy instead. This is an example of heavy attacks that don't make sense to make them use the second heavy attack instead of first, as it will make his Y-hander just another colossal if it goes into the second heavy like every other colossal sword. There is a good reason to choose those colossal swords over something like Y-hander and vice versa. So as you can see here, while we don't have true combos other than the ones for heavy weapons and the subsequent attacks, by having the light and heavy attacks have this synergy, you're able to capitalize on the mixing up of your light and heavy attacks. However, light and heavy attacks aren't the only ones that have the good synergy. The offhand attacks and the power stance attacks also receive the ability to have great synergy with light and heavy attacks. As you can see here, it flows really nice across the board. It would give rise to so many ideas. This
looks so much cooler, dude. Like, seriously, this looks so much cooler than what we have in the base game. This is like how it should have been from the get-go. Like, even for PvE, like, you cannot tell me that, like, this isn't, like, visually appealing on top of being more balanced. This is, like, better in every way than what we got. Like, this is, like, actually so much better.
Raises the skill ceiling extremely high and much higher than a system with true combos from neutral like Dark Souls.
It seems like it, I haven't played with it, but it seems like it makes like way more weapons viable too. Because like since everything has like flowing attacks, there's more mix-up potential from like any hit you're doing. And I mean, I love that. That's good. That's making more weapons relevant.
Those three did, while still retaining the skill aspect such as spacing of it due to passive poise not being a deterrent anymore, but instead a positive support of limiting the extremely fast attacks like the dagger example we gave earlier. Heavy weapon changes. Since the damage of power stance was significantly reduced and fast weapons are able to break the passive poise reliably while also making sure the extremely troublesome fast attacks like the thrusting swords and daggers are properly nerfed to compensate for the changes, fast weapons are in many ways in a perfect spot balance-wise, especially since they don't have the long stun that allowed true combos that was in Dark Souls 3 that made it easier to stun lock players, which caused a huge imbalance between heavy and fast weapons. Plus, fast weapons also now have access to all various attacks due to the change in the attack synergy of light, heavy, offhand, and power stance. Their second attack is always unreactable, so you are likely to always force rolls once you get the first hit, and from there capitalize on whether you should do a heavy attack, another light attack, an offhand attack, and so on. Heavy weapons on the other hand will need further changes to put them on the same level. Yes, fast weapons now having true combos and lower stun made them more balanced, but removing the true combo of heavy weapons made them worse than before because they ended up losing what they are best at doing, which is winning trades. We could bring the true combos for them so they can win trades again, but I think we could make it much more interesting. What we did in this mod is first we gave all the two-handed heavy weapons that have hyper armor the ability to reduce the incoming damage by 50% during hyper armor frames of specific attacks.
So this is another thing we've talked about like all the way back since the network test. Instead of making you know, big weapons true combo, or actually not at the network test, but when the game came out, instead of making big weapons true combo, just give them more defense when they attack in hyper armor, just to make them win trades. He said 50%, not 15. 50%. So basically the equivalent of like tanking half a hit. It's like blocking. So it's to incentivize big weapons to trade pretty much. Whereas before that, you could not trade really with any big weapon. You had to use them to get clean hits just like you would with a small weapon.
Those specific attacks are the first light attack only, first heavy attack only, running attack, running heavy attack, and backstab attack. You might think, why not give this to every hyper armor attack? Well, first, Ashes of War deal very high damage already, so it wouldn't make sense to give it to them unless they already have it. You also have to understand giving incoming defense during hyper armor is a very powerful tool, so you have to use it conservatively. In Dark Souls 3, it was specifically the first light attack that had the true combo and not the second and only the light attacks for the most part. In this situation, we are allowing anything from neutral able to win the trade, as those are the attacks that were likely to trade. The second and subsequent attacks will, for the most part, not be in the position to trade. That said, we did a big thing for the subsequent attacks. To make use of the second light attack from vanilla coming after most animation, and now the second heavy coming after most animations in this mod, we are bringing true combos only for them. The inspiration for this is the Knight Greysword moveset, as it basically works very similar. In this mod, if you are using a heavy weapon, regardless if it is two-handed or one-handed, the second light attack will always true combo with the third, and the third will true combo to the fourth if it has it. The second heavy will...
If you're confused here, basically what he's doing is, since the second heavy attack combos, or did he say second heavy or second light?
And the third will true combo to the light attack, regardless if it is two-handed or one-handed. The second light attack will always true combo with the...
Okay, so the second light attack will always true combo. So that means basically, like we saw there, he did like a stamp on the floor, and the stamp let him use the second light attack instead of the first one, because that's how like the new chaining of attack works. And because the second light combos, it gives him a two-hit trade.
Or one-handed.
But from what he also said earlier, the second attacks don't have that defense buff like the first one.
The second light attack will always true combo with the third, and the third will true combo to the fourth if it has it. The second heavy will always true combo into the third light attack, since with the change of synergy between attacks we mentioned earlier, the second heavy acts like the second light attack that you can charge. So just like how the second light attack gets the third light attack, the second heavy gets the third light attack as well if you click the light attack after the second heavy.
Man, seeing all these attacks chained together like that, whereas none of them have new animations in any way, shape, or form, it makes you wonder why wasn't this in the base game? Because, you know, it's not like this takes a lot of time. Like Gabri said, this is fairly easy to put together. All he's doing is basically setting it up so that the second one comes out after each attack instead of the first one. Like, it just looks so cool seeing all these attacks chained together. And it makes the gameplay a lot more fun because you have access to way more mix-up options. So it's more healthy for the game on top of being much more visually appealing.
This means that if the second heavy hits, it also true combos into the third if it hits. You might think that might be a bit too much, but you have to understand.
Yeah, exactly. Even PvE player would like this.
If you land the second light or the second heavy. Those are all hidden behind the neutral attacks. You do not get true combos from neutral attacks across the board. This is great, as now it makes the second light attack specifically very threatening, since they come out usually faster than the first light attack and have potential to dish out great damage. Plus, since the second heavy happens to visually look very similar to the second light attack, but you are able to delay its timing due to being chargeable, you can basically put your opponent in 50-50s after you get the first neutral hit, whether it is from the first light attack, running attack, first heavy attack, and so on. If the opponent anticipates the second light attack after getting hit by the first light attack, they will likely have to panic roll to not get hit, but risk getting roll caught by the second heavy attack that has the delayed timing. If they anticipate the second heavy attack instead after getting the first light attack to hit, they will likely try to not panic, but they risk getting hit by the second light attack since it comes out fast and could catch them sleeping if they are not paying attention. If any of the second light attack or second heavy hit, you will dish out huge numbers. For colossal weapons, we ended up having to dish out huge numbers. For colossal weapons, we ended up having to lower the stun level of only the neutral attacks, which are the first light attacks, running light attacks, and jumping light attacks. This is so we can make the second light attack come out faster and increase its speed to make use of the system we created. On top of that, if the second light attack or second heavy hit, it of course will true combo into the third light attack in the
basically, like the bottom line gameplay wise is that every time you hit confirm on someone, every time you land a hit, you have more mix-up possibilities to keep aggression going. You have more mix-up possibilities, the damage is normalized, the poise is normalized. It's basically like fixing all the fundamental issues with the game, like one at a time. And then you end up with something that's not only like crazy balanced, but much more visually appealing on top of that. And it makes a lot more classes relevant.
The interesting thing about the colossal swords and weapons, the third light attack happens to be the finisher. So the damage you will get if you hit them will be even greater than the great based class weapons. It will also finally make use of that useless twin blade talisman that increases the damage of finishers that will likely never even hit in PvE, let alone PvP. So in summary, the neutral base attacks do not true combo. However, if you are two-handed and have hyper armor, they are able to gain 50% damage reduction during hyper armor trade of the first neutral attacks. All subsequent attacks, in contrast, have the ability to true combo if they hit. These systems are only available to heavy weapons only. With these great improvements in the rework of crouch system that we will talk about shortly, heavy weapons will be more viable than ever. Crouching attacks. I'm sure many of you assume that crouching attacks should be nerfed similar to how daggers got nerfed as mentioned above. This would mean nerfing their poise damage would make sense as they are very fast. However, that is a horrible change to do. Crouch attacks have a potential to work as a system that gives the fastest option in your arsenal if it is balanced correctly. Balanced correctly means it doesn't mean it's the best attack in the arsenal, just the fastest. What we did in this mod is we first sped up all the slow crouch attacks to be similar in speed to the faster ones. So Colossal Swords got their pre-patch speed back, whereas Curved Greatsword and Colossal Weapons received a speed buff to their crouch attacks. Also, all crouch attacks are able to break passive poise. That's the only buff they received, as I then nerfed them completely with many ways.
You know, that might scare a lot of people, but that just makes every weapon viable. Like, it's just that simple. You give every weapon a fast attack, it just makes everything viable.
Except the poise damage nerf method. All crouch attacks deal 134 poise damage, whether it's light weapons or colossal weapons, so they are extremely easy to hyper armor trade them. The regular crouch attacks weapons, so
basically it made them do like max, like it's always going to stun neutral, but it does like the minimum, like it does 134 poise damage. So when you're trading, you're always going to out-trade the crouch, pretty much.
Extremely easy to hyper armor trade them. The regular crouch attacks received a 30% damage nerf. The power stance crouch attacks that attack simultaneously received a damage nerf of 50%.
Okay, so to balance all of this out, the increased speed, they just nerfed the damage like crazy. So power stance crouch is like does have the damage of what it does now. And then a normal two-handed crouch does like 70%. So basically, you're always going to lose trade when you're trading with a crouch attack, but it's basically your roll catch tool.
might think it is a lot, but it is still more damage than the regular crouch attacks overall because two attacks are hitting at once. Then, crouch attacks received a nerf to their tracking. You are able to strafe every single crouch attack, including the ones that wouldn't look like you can, like the katana crouch attack, great spear, or curved greatsword ones, due to being horizontal, but as you can see, you can. The tracking is still strong enough though to allow to turn and burn whiff punish with them by turning completely 180 degrees at early frames. Lastly, their recovery into rolling and crouching was increased, which means it takes longer to cancel a crouch attack into rolling and crouching. All these made them still very useful as they are still the fastest attack options in your arsenal,
But
but
they're
you
higher
cannot rely
commitment.
on them only as they will get you punished if you do so by even getting backstabs, reliably. Backstabs. Speaking of backstabs, changing this one value right here basically makes backstabs similar to Dark Souls 3 level. The whiff animations now can stagger you unlike before, but should still keep the same recovery now that they are easier to pull off like in Dark Souls 3. The change basically is that we changed the angle check from 120 to 180. It is even easier than Dark Souls 3 due to the grab being 2 frames faster in Elden Ring. But even though it is 2 frames faster than Dark Souls 3, the whiff animations are much slower than Dark Souls 3 version. After testing them, they felt by many of the people testing as
I'm not sure why in the base game it's 120 degrees. I feel like 180 makes much more sense. So there's still an angle check, right? You cannot like face stab people. But I don't know, I feel like 180 is still, you know, it's still very conservative. I'm not sure why they have not implemented that in the base game. I did not know it was like 120, like the angle. That basically means you can backstab someone who's like perpendicular.
the best iteration of backstabs and even better than Dark Souls 3 version due to the whiff animation being easy to punish, yet when you go for it properly, you get it reliably. You can now punish forward rolls, pivot backstabs, and much more. Combine the fact that crouching attacks are now useful on all weapons, but easy to strafe and backstab, should make positioning matter much more than ever. Light rolls, bloodhound step, quick step, and raptors.
Here we go.
So these specific animations, in their own way, are game breaking for PvP. The
Yep.
biggest culprits are the distance they travel first and then recovery cancels second. The distance they travel completely negates fundamentals as it lets you escape any attacks meant to roll catch.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's for BHS and light roll. So the distance for them just breaks the game just because you end up too far to catch your target. So that's the main issue with BHS and light roll. But there's also another issue that affects
did
all
in this
four.
mod is the following. For light rolls, I made the distance the same as the mid rolls. However, I gave it the ability to cancel into almost everything but another roll faster. So roll into roll is still the same, but roll into attack is faster. Roll into crouch is faster, and so on. Rolling into blocking and crouching does not make you cancel roll to roll faster.
This is a change in direction, which I think honestly every PvPer would agree with, but this basically means that there's no more like stupid range for light roll.
Than if you did a normal roll to roll, in case you are wondering. So you can move out of the light roll faster, you can attack faster, but your travel distance is the same as mid roll. Bloodhound step. This is basically the same. This basically became the same as vanilla quickstep, but with the visual effect of disappearing and appearing. Plus, it also uses the slow cancel instead of the fast cancel, so it doesn't recovery cancel anymore. For quickstep, it will keep its ability to recovery cancel, but all its iframes was removed. Furthermore, it got the ability to cancel into other animations faster, including into itself. Since it has no iframes anymore and being able to recovery cancel and cancel into other attacks faster, it will be used more offensively, whereas Bloodhound Step defensively. As a bonus, I gave Quickstep and Bloodhound Step the ability to use crouch attack all the time if you click light attack, and backstep attack all the time if you click heavy attack, to make them much more consistent in what they want, in what you want them to do. This made them extremely fun to use, especially Quickstep, as you can see here. Remember, it doesn't have iframes anymore, so don't let it be in this fast to cancel scare you. As for Raptor of the Mist, it only got its ability to recovery cancel removed. Bonuses. These are things that...
So I have to say though, I I don't think this is going to be like appreciated by everyone, the changes for the Donjash of War. Like personally, I would have gone with something more simple. Like pretty much what he did is delete light roll and delete BHS from the game, which I mean, it's not something I think most of us would mind, but yeah, that just won't happen. Like Kaim said, I don't think that would happen. But yeah, personally, I think like we would still be okay if it's just like, you know, you nerf the iframe, you remove the recovery for all these Donjash of War, and you nerf the distance. I think that would have been enough. Yes, they would have been a bit more samey to one another, but I mean, yeah.
Are not as important as the changes we mentioned previously, but are still worth mentioning for improving the game. First, you are able to reverse sprint jump when locked on instead of only when unlocked. This makes it very reliable and quick to do, as you can see here. Another thing is, all attacking recovery of heavy attacks, offhand attacks, and power stance attacks was made the same as the light attack, so they can come out faster and make more use of the light and heavy attack synergy that we mentioned previously. Heavy attacks are slower than light attacks, so there is no reason to make them cancel slower from a light attack. The fast recovery cancel Ashes of Wars were made even faster to match that of the recovery cancel of light attacks if it is slower. Furthermore, all attack-based Ashes of War will not use the faster recovery cancel, whereas the defensive ones that have iframes will use the anything that has iframe will use the slower cancel. Anything that has hyper armor startup faster than 10 frames was pushed to 10 frame startup, so that we don't get instant hyper armor trades like currently Stormstop does. All recovery into rolling of all attack animations was increased, meaning it takes longer to cancel into a roll from all attack animations. In Elden Ring, the roll cancel has a ridiculously low recovery. This makes it very hard to punish mistakes. To counter the roll cancel nerf, movement cancel was made better, and that includes regular moving, block cancel, and crouching. Roll cancelling is still faster than movement cancel though, just slower than block cancel and crouching. For Ashes of Wars, I would like to go over them on another video, but just a teaser. Bloodhound Finesse works like this. The first part has an excellent tracking throughout with infinite tracking 2 frames inside the hitbox. This allows players to basically make use of the backward jump to sort of reverse jump with it, the same way you can with the reverse backstep. The follow-up received infinite tracking all the way to its hitbox. This makes it so that you can actually free aim where you want your character to appear from before the animation finishes. It is extremely satisfying to use. There are other interesting ideas that I want to show you, but I will save them for when I release the mod to the public. Regardless, I hope this shows you how much better Elden Ring could be. The biggest changes are the poise damage and damage changes sections that will greatly help improve Elden Ring PvP. It took me less than an hour to do the poise and regular damage changes, as I showed you how easy it is, and look how drastic the changes can be. This is with a third-party tool, let alone Fromsoftware with its original tools. Fromsoftware took the time and trouble to make a great system like the final damage rate parameter that only affects PvP. It is just a matter of using it now. They will only use it if they see demand for it. If your expectations are so low, you will get low results. There's an old saying that says, aim for the 100 to get the 90 on your grades. This is no different. As for this mod, I plan on polishing and completing it. Then I will release it to the public for you guys to try it out. It will be playable on seamless co-op. I will try to make it easily accessible so you can just try it out without issues. While yes, I do have the say in most of what happens to it, it is still a community effort. There are reasonable arguments against certain aspect. I will take into consideration. In the end, I don't really profit from any of this, and only reason I'm doing it is due to my passion for it. The main goal of the mod will be to visually show feedback to Fromsoftware about what changes we should get. If we don't get anything, we will go to plan B and go.
So pretty much, you know, all of what we're seeing in this is actually feedback for FromSoft. Like he said, he made like a lot of the changes you see here, like the poise change and the damage change, in an hour. And Gabry has no technical background, and he's using only the community tools that, you know, people have made to mod the game. So, you know, there's no excuse for a lot of the things here. You might not necessarily agree with all the changes, but there's some changes like the animation flowing, man.
Go all out with the PvP mod. This could mean even getting a dedicated PvP server just for the mod that allows us to all out with the PvP. If we don't get anything, we will back to Fromsoftware about. The main goal of the mod will be to visually show feedback to Fromsoftware about what changes we should get. If we don't get anything, we will go to plan B and go all out with the PvP mod. This could mean even getting a dedicated PvP server just for the mod that allows us to add covenants, player limit, invasions balanced specifically on PvP, more arena modes with newer maps, and so much more. We can even make it where you start the games with PvP ready characters that you can change their level but respect their stats. This way everyone is at the same level cap, making it easier to connect with each other and balance around. The sky.
I think you're missing the point though, Kaim. Like, the whole point of this is to make a bunch of suggestions to FromSoft. They implement whatever they want. Then the plan B is you just play the mod, and he's laying out all the plans he has for the mod. So it's basically like a two outcome plan. These are suggestions to FromSoftware to make, and then these are how the mod is going to go going forward.
The sky is basically the limit with each. There's with PvP ready characters that you can change their level but respect their stats. This way everyone is at the same level cap, making it easier to connect with each other and balance around. The sky is basically the limit if we can get a dedicated server just for the mod. That said, I will leave it at that for now and take things step by step. Please share it with as much people as you can to bring more awareness, and hopefully we can get something going for this game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you all have a wonderful day. Have a good one.
Well, you guys want to go check out Gabry's channel? So yeah, a lot of great suggestions in there. Honestly, it's exciting, but it's a bit depressing because it's, you know, a lot of the ways we could fix the game, it's so easy yet so far, if you know what I mean, right? Like, basically anyone could fix the game, except FromSoftware doesn't do it. So yeah, I mean, great vid, to be honest, great vid. Well, I think we're going to call the stream here, though.